Welcome, guys. We are going to attempt our first VFR flight today in the Pit Special S2S. This is actually a part of a challenge, Jack of all planes, that each plane in the standard edition, if you fly a 300 nautical mile journey, um, I think there's 20 planes that came with the standard edition, but anyways, you got to do a 300 nautical mile journey in every single plane. So I'm a little worried on this one because it has a range of 298 nautical miles. So we found I poked around a little bit and found a flight route from 0E0 just east of Albuquerque and all the way over to KDEN Denver International Airport. And this happens to be exactly 300 nautical miles, which is 2 nautical miles outside the range of this aircraft, according to Microsoft. So we'll see how that goes. I figure if I can get lots of altitude, and even if I have to dead stick it into Denver, Denver being the biggest international airport, I think, in North America, we should have lots of runway 12,000 feet here, and hopefully lots of altitude by then to get into that airport. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I've never flown the Pit Special before, at least in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. So we'll put make sure we have full fuel under our weight and balance. We need every drop of it, and I'm going to try and get the pilot payload appropriate for my weight here. And 189. So all right, fine, 190. I guess after lunch that's probably pretty appropriate. Now I'm going to try and give myself a tailwind here, 12 knots, because I'm going to need every little bit of help I can get to hopefully the advantage I get from the tailwind will bring me and get me to Denver without running out of fuel before I can get on the ground. So let's see, gusting. I haven't really played with these settings before, so I have no idea how they will affect me. I don't know. So this should be interesting. Tail draggers always are, and this is a bit of, well, it's quite a performance plane, so we're going to see how this handles off the ground. I have quite a bit of experience in tail draggers as far as the Mustang and Spitfire go in DCS. Actually, I have some videos of landing, a three-wheel landing in the Mustang, which is a considerably difficult landing for a tail dragger. But if you want to go, maybe I'll leave it at the end of this video so you can take a look. If you're interested in tail draggers, go ahead and check that video out. But here we go, loading up, and we're going to find out the hard way how difficult this aircraft is to take off. Probably should have set up some of the sensitivities before, but oh well, this whole thing is I'm just trying to get the jack of all planes. So each plane 300 nautical mile journey, and each this seemed like the most difficult one as it didn't have enough range to make that journey. So we should be fine with that tailwind, I'm hoping, assuming we don't go so off course that we have to use that extra fuel to get back on course. But anyways, here we go in the cockpit. Another concern of mine is on the main screen there was clearly 2 fuel tanks. So there's going to, in this, I guarantee you, we're going to have to flip that manually somewhere, unless there's like a gravity feed of some type. And there we go. What's that down there? Some instruments. So there's our fuel gauge, and those aren't operable. Looks like nothing's clickable in here. There's our fuel cutoff with our aux tank, so it looks like we can't click. Oh, there we go. What happened? So, okay, so I can use those. So those are operable. There we go. All right. I'm glad we found that right away. I had a funny suspicion that I'd be flying around looking for this thing for 20 minutes and not being able to figure out how to do it. So I figured it would be on the floor, maybe even under the seat somewhere, but that seems fine. We are ready to take off. Let's see here, just checking some of my charts. So this is pure VFR flight. We have a compass. That's the only navigating tool we have. And I've pre-drawn out the flight on a map so that I have hopefully enough visual cues to get us there. Large lakes and towns and major highways and things of that nature. The scenery is so good in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. We'll see if it's good enough to go 300 nautical miles north to Denver, based purely on visuals. So it looks like there are no flaps in this thing. I guess it just flies clean. Giant ailerons, holy crap. Let's go. Give it some throttle here. And so far so good. Trying to level off. Oh, getting a little squirrely. A little bit sensitive on the rudder pedals. I'm barely touching them. So you want to, I probably should have read a little bit about this thing first. And a lot of tail draggers, I never even attempted that. I should have, because in the Mustang it's like that, and a number of tail draggers also are the same. I'm actually just going to do a 180-degree turn here to head north. But what you do is you pull back on the stick all the way back, and it locks the tail wheel instead of being completely free to go anywhere it wants. It locks it so that it can only move 3 degrees or 5 or something like that, one way or another, depends on the plane. But anyways, if you pull the stick back all the way, it'll lock the tail gear in place so that, you know, during your first roll in a tail dragger, before you push forward on the stick to get the wings level so you can see where you're going, you're not, you know, wildly swinging all across the runway like you just saw me do there. I should have remembered that and done that, or at least attempted to do that. And maybe I would have gone a little more straight down the runway. Tail draggers can be a little squirrely on that, not so much the first roll, but right when you get into that midpoint before you lift the tail off the ground to get her level, and you push forward on the stick for that. So it's a little bit of a different takeoff in a tail dragger. Pull back on the stick, lock the tail wheel, get up a little bit of speed, 40 knots. I didn't really take a look in this plane. I should have checked what some of the V speeds were. But push forward on the stick so it can level off and you can see, and then wait for your rotate speed to pull off and out. And landing can be fun in these things. There's a number of ways to land. There's a 3-wheel landing where you kind of come in with a high angle of attack and much slower and touch down all 3 wheels at the same time. Ideally your front wheels just slightly first. And then there's also a much more difficult, for me anyways, landing where you come in much faster and level. Though the nice thing about that, there's pros and cons to both ways to land these things, but the nice thing is when you bring them in level and fast, you can see where you're going down the runway, and you kind of just put it down on the 2 wheels. You can't brake or you'll tip the nose over and break the prop and crash, but you can kind of just let it sit on the 2 wheels and slowly throttle down and let it land on the 3rd wheel. And ideally then pull back on the stick if you're going slow enough so that you don't have lift, and it will lock the tail wheel and bring you down the runway. So anyways, we don't, I should have remembered that before I took off, but I just said, let's get in there and let's get this journey done. Now, landing this thing on the other end, assuming I'm not landing a dead stick, should be just as interesting. I'll be quite happy if I just get it landed, to be honest with you. So all right, let's see. We're looking for our first visual reference here as we're heading north, which will be Santa Fe on the left, a little city, and I've got a highway that kind of V's in towards us. But right now we're just going to go ahead and fly this heading as best we can until we get to some visual reference points. And we're going to be looking for cities and towns and lakes. Lakes are big ones, and there's got to be a dozen lakes on the way that I'm looking for visual references for, and highways and rivers. So I'm going to have to be constantly looking down here at my fuel so that we can switch over to the auxiliary tank when need be. And I'm just kind of taking a look what we got. Manifold pressure, I'm guessing that is RPM, manifold pressure. A bunch of information down there. So usually I would familiarize myself with the aircraft a lot more, but I'm not planning to fly this a whole lot. And to be honest, if I am going to fly this, it's probably just going to be to mess around and do some aerobautics around a city or something. I'm not really concerned about proper flight procedures in this thing. It's an interesting little aircraft, but not really my cup of tea, if that makes sense. Personally, I prefer the big singles. like especially the turboprops, like the TBM 930, Pilatus PC-12, one of my favorite aircraft. I know the Epic 1000 is pretty neat. All those big singles are pretty neat. I really like the Diamond aircraft, the DA62 or the DA40. I hope someone models the new DA50 NG. Or I guess it's the DA50 RG, retractable gear. That's brand new and is a 5-seater, which would be my ideal aircraft. Actually, I guess the ideal aircraft would be a DA62, and then just have that extra space for luggage. And then you have the extra failover on the engine. A DA62 is not like most twins. Most single engine guys don't want to get into a twin because they can be a little hairy to fly. Everyone, at least when I learned to fly 30 years ago, people would say, you know, twin's great for in case an engine goes out, but have you ever flown a twin with an engine out? It's not as easy as it sounds, but I think nowadays it may be. I wouldn't know, but from what I hear of the DA62, I see people taking them up on test flights with the Diamond aircraft reps, and they take an engine out, and it handles and flies and can climb to, I think I can climb to full altitude. I mean, probably not, maybe like 50,000, 80,000 feet or something like that. No problems. So that's pretty neat. With a twin like that, I think that would be an ideal plane for the extra added safety of the engine. But anyways, going on about the DA62, I'm hoping to fly a heading here. Let's see. So we're looking out. Right now, my marker is sort of, I know I need to fly toward that mountain range on the right there, and I'm flying left of it. So I know I'm good, and I'm flying a good heading on my compass here. I'm just trying to look at the charts. I have I'm looking in this charted region. The safe altitude is 11,400 feet, which is probably a 2,000 foot clearance because there's mountains in the area. So I just want to gain, I'm probably clear of everything right now, but I just want to slowly get our altitude up to, so if you look at the charts, the highest clearing I need is actually 16,400 feet, but that's going to be a 2,000 foot clearing, and the maximum altitude on this is 15,000 feet. So if we can get this to 15,000 feet, we should be fine. It's a clear day. I can see everything. We're not planning to fly over any actual peaks of those ranges, so we should be fine at 15,000 feet, which will also give us plenty of altitude when we get to Denver if we see this thing running on fumes to do an emergency landing here. So let's see. So it's funny, none of that's operable, I guess. I don't know. Alright, so we're looking around, flying a decent heading here, and just trying to get this thing trimmed out a bit. It's very, very sensitive, and the second you start looking around, it will pitch it'll roll just a degree or two to one way, and then it will start rolling much, much faster. And next thing you know, you look back and you're in a 20-degree turn or bank and off course. So that's the problem with no GPS here. It's important to stay on course, because if you get off course even a little bit, it can start to get out of control, especially if you get off course and then you can't start finding any of your visuals to give you a reference point of north, south, or east, west on your track. So it's very, very important for us to look around here and see if there's anything we can spot, even if we didn't write it. I have a number of visual references that on the map I said, okay, we're looking for these when we get sort of around these points. But even though I'm looking for certain things, I'm also wanting to constantly look out everywhere I am and see if there's a little lake that I didn't really write down as being a reference point, so that I can see that lake and look at it, and then look at my map and see if I can confirm that it is relatively in the same area as it should be. So this will be interesting to see if Microsoft Flight Simulator scenery is good enough. I think it is, if it's using Bing Maps and everything to visually reference everything and get all the way north. I wish this had a vertical speed indicator and a horizontal situation indicator so that I could sort of be looking at my instruments and knowing that I'm not rolling over. But I'm guessing most of the people that would fly these in real life, they're always just flying visual and in around airports for shows and fun. It's not like you're going to take this out on a family trip or excursion. This thing is basically purely a visual flying aircraft. Everything in the cockpit here is, you've got our acceleration. I mean, it's all based around aerobatics basically. It's pretty neat. Sure, it would be a lot of fun to fly. Tons of power, lots of lift with a bi-wing. Alright. Kind of looking at those gorges and that river there. And I can see that river on the map, and there's a there's a small airport off to my left, which I see on the map, so we're still good. I don't propose we're going to be too off course for the first third of the journey, but you never know. You get a crosswind that is nice and steady, and it doesn't really, that's the problem with a compass, is a crosswind pushing me off course. I'm not going to really notice it. I could be flying the same heading the whole time, and a wind could be pushing me east or west. So we've got, so that was a small airport. So we have, let's see, coming up we've got some railroads. We got the major US 295 on the right. That's going to cross us over to the left to a little town of Lamy. And then we have the I-25 going east-west that we will cross going north to the town of Santa Fe on our left. So, and then there's another big river system that we're going to end up crossing. So we should have a number of visuals to go on. And I'm just sort of looking at the fuel flow right now and trying to kind of gain some altitude. I don't want to gain enough, I don't want to be gaining altitude so fast that I want to try and be as efficient as possible and not have my throttle up too much and be wasting gas. I'm trying to be very efficient and keep my fuel flow at around 10. So there's the first indication of that. I believe that's the train tracks that heads up there. There's train tracks, but then there's a river system. Am I looking further, or? So that would be, Sorry, there'll be a lot of pauses and hims and haws. Commentary is not too important here. I figure if you're watching this, you're probably doing something on the side. And that is that I-25? Okay, so that was on my left there. I saw the town of Lamy must be below us to the left, and that street went up and connected into I-25. So I just caught a glimpse of it there. Sorry, when you see the back of my seat like that, I'm probably reaching for something to my left or right. I've got the track IR, which I don't know how people fly without it. It is incredible. I can't wait for my next steps personally are the NVIDIA 3000 series. I'll do a 3080 or a 3090 depending on the cost, and then from there I'll be waiting for the next HP, probably, from what I hear, about whoever releases the next greatest VR system. So between an NVIDIA 3000 and VR, I can't wait to fly this thing with that setup. That being said, I would still recommend a Track IR. They're cheap, they're easy to look around and use. I can't say that I'll always be flying VR because I'm not quite sure how selecting things and changing radios and things of that nature is going to work. That will feel pretty handy, I think, in VR. Probably worth it for the experience. I've known a few people watching, sorry, I don't know them, but watching their videos on the dev journals, and every one of them that have flown this in working on the VR for this has just been giddy about it. I said, it's the best experience they've ever had. Now that being said, watch people flying DCS in VR and they're the same. They're just giddy. So I could only imagine how amazing it is in DCS, and something like this with the visuals, I think it's going to be incredible. It'll be game-changing for sure. Alright, so we are flying still north on a good heading. The beginning part of the journey I'm not too concerned with because you're not going to get pushed off course too much. Now that's Lamy down there, I believe. So that would be I-25 off to the right. But again, you're not going to get too off course in the first little bit. My concern is more when you're halfway, 3/4 of the way there, and you could have been pushed wildly in one direction or the other and start losing some of your visual references. You don't want that. Okay. So we're starting to come up to the first set of terrain, or mountainous terrain here, which I've got a visual for. There's a river that will run through there that will help me figure out where I am. And I know I'm flying just left of that terrain, so that still looks good. I do have these, I did sort of a rough calculation of time at knots, 120 knots, to each of these visual reference points, but as the flight, they help more near the beginning. I mean, they will help. They give me an indication of when sometimes you're looking for your next reference, but you're still 10 minutes away from it. So, you know, if you have those done also, they're good to have, because at least you can look down at your stopwatch and say, okay, I have 6 minutes left on this leg to the next visual reference point. There's no way it's below me. Now, when you get closer to 9 minutes, it's not going to tell you you're a minute away. You could be flying over it if you're going faster than 120 knots, or depending on the head or tailwind, and if you got pushed off course. So they're not accurate enough to tell you perfectly that you've arrived, especially after, you know, a few legs. So there's the lake. I know that lake. So that is, let's see. Yes. Sorry, I'm checking my map here. I should have another reference point though off my right wing there. Okay, so that's okay. So that's the river system that runs up north and then I think goes east after that, sort of northeast. So with that, we should have up there. Should have an airport close to us here off our left wing. think we are flying over the town of Teos. It's probably just a bit behind us now. But that's okay, that lake is supposed to be there. One good thing about lakes, they don't move. Well, at least not very quickly. Not in my lifetime. Looks like a boat ramp on that lake. And from that lake, let's see. You're always second guessing everything you see when you're flying pure visual like this. I mean, we have headings to fly and we have times, but at the same time, everything, I'm like, did I calculate it right? Is the distance or time right? Is that the visual reference that I think it is? It looks the same as the lake on the map, but is it one before or one after it? That way, the more information you have, the better. That's why if you have the times for the legs, and you see the lake and it matches the lake that you have on your map, and the time matches and the heading matches, and everything lines up, then it's just more information. So I think the highest point around here is around 10,500-ish, or maybe 9,500. But I'm well clear of these areas, so I should be fine. I'm just getting ready actually for... That looks good. It's incredible how you can see each individual tree from up here. I love that. That looks good in DCS too. DCS is pretty good at some of their terrain and trees. They look really good. But some of those trees, just the tree line on the edge of the mountain caps there, where you can see the individual trees looking up, just looks so realistic. It looks so awesome. One thing I wasn't expecting when I set this up in the time of day, so something to consider for another journey, is that the reflection on the windshield that you see there on the left side is making it really hard for me to visually see anything on the left side of the plane. The right side's perfect, but when I look out the left side, I see a lot of reflection, and I'm not sure if I'm looking at scratches on the cockpit or roads, or it's just really tough. That's why sometimes I'll actually roll the aircraft left and right, so that I can, the reflections look definitively different than the terrain, and you can sort of spot the terrain a little bit better. Right side's beautiful, can see out there no problem. I'm betting it's hot as hell in here with this cockpit glass pit and the sun beating down. Like a little greenhouse. Make sure we have some nice cool air flowing in here. So let's see, I need to be looking for there's a few points on this journey where I was concerned about the length of legs between the visuals, but if you try and fly a good heading, it should get you there. You know, it's pretty easy to spot a giant lake, for instance, so even if you get a bit off course, as long as you get to sort of your time where you're like, okay, north-south I should be here, or close to here, I should be able to spot these big items, you can get yourself back on course. The further you fly, the more important it is to ensure that you are on course and to get another reference point of, okay, this is pretty much exactly where I am. So from here I can correct and fly another heading to where I'm going. It's almost like starting fresh again. But the longer I spend in flight without a visual of something, the more concerned I get. And like I said, you're always second guessing every one of your decisions. Just maintain a nice heading, and I'm just sort of trimming off the aircraft so that we can maintain 15,000 feet, so that we know we're good for our complete journey as far as not hitting any of the terrain. Keeps wanting to pitch up on me. Every time I pitch down, it gains a knot or two, and this thing's got so much lift that as soon as I gain that little bit of speed, it wants to pitch up again. All right. It's always easy to mistake the shadows of some of the hills there too for sort of small rivers or small rivers or lakes. Especially from a distance, greenery and shadows and little gorges like that can look like rivers or lakes, and they're not. Alright, just keep flying our heading. Hope I'm not making you dizzy with looking left and right with the track IR. When you're wearing the track IR, you don't get that sensation because you're the one doing the movements. So it's natural to your eye when you move your head to look left, and the monitor makes you look left. It's very natural. But whenever I replay these, I realize that sort of left and right movement, or when you move the track IR too fast, it can kind of be dizzying because you didn't make the movement and you weren't necessarily expecting it, and your eyes are trying to track the screen. But it becomes natural pretty much on your first or second flight when you use track IR if you're not using it. It's honestly a great system. I can't recommend it more. It was probably the best addition to my flight sim setup. Speaking of which, I a while ago got out from trying to build nice big cockpits. There's something to be said for that. I think they're awesome. But I fly too many different types of plane and different systems, DCS and things, that you build too complex of a cockpit for one aircraft and then it doesn't feel right for the next. And especially with Flight Sim 2020, what do? Get a G1000 set up, and then it looks ridiculous when you're flying this, or vice versa. You do gauges, but then you're flying a TBM with the G3000. So it just kind of stopped getting into all that. What I use instead is I think it's a 32 button Stream Deck, and those things are awesome. I can't recommend that more for kind of a small cockpit setup. I have a number of different flight sticks and joysticks and throttles, yokes that I'll switch out depending on the plane I'm going to fly. But then I can remove the keyboard from the equation and have custom Stream Deck profiles for each aircraft, so that I don't have one for this because I just jumped in, but I have a general one that I can use for pretty much all GA aircraft that I don't have a custom profile for. And it's 32 LCD buttons, so you can basically put anything you want on those buttons, including graphics. In fact, I have a number of videos on my channel, if you're interested in that, where I've done custom development for a number of aircraft in DCS for the Stream Deck. So if you want to see what's possible with the Stream Deck, I actually have moving gauges and information displayed right on the buttons, so that while I'm flying in DCS, I can get information very quickly. But between that and the proper input devices are always extremely important. I mean, if you don't have those, go there first. But I would go with a proper yoke or joystick, whatever suits your fancy, depending on the type of aircraft you fly. The nice thing about having both is a lot of GA aircraft now have joysticks, like the Diamond aircraft, and I think the Cirrus also has a joystick. So you could do with both, and then but honestly, a track IR system is just awesome. Still a little paranoid that I'm not going to be able to flip this in time. So I just got to go right on the handle to flip it. All right. Now, okay, that was a shadow. I thought that was a river for a second. Still looking for our next visual point here, or something that I can use to figure out exactly where we are north-south. And hopefully I'd like to get, I don't have one coming up for a bit here, I'd like to get an east-west reference better than we've had so far. Okay, so that is that a river? You don't see a lot through that little door there, but that definitely tells you if you, sometimes you're looking for a visual reference point and you're flying over it, and it's nice to be able to look down there, but that thing will only show you what you're literally flying right over, so. All right. Starting to get far enough in the journey here that I'm getting paranoid that I've been blown off track too much. So looking for that some type of east-west indicator here. There's that gorge. Sorry guys for the dead space, leave you to your own devices for a minute. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where we are on this map. Now that, is that a town there? I know that gorge coming up. We've got that on, it's a river system that runs up. That is a good sign. I'm pretty sure that is our track pretty much runs parallel to that, if that's it, and I'm pretty sure it is. And so that All right. So I believe that town on the right there is Teos. That makes sense. And that's, yeah, I can spot an airport there on the left. So that's Teos below us, so that is very good. And it has US, let's see, 64, Highway 64, I guess. But there's the airport. We have a visual on that now, so. And that gorge then is the river that I've got marked. So I'm just trying to see then if we're passing the airport at the same angle and track as I have drawn on the map here. There should be a big, sorry guys, just checking my map. So the city looking town there to the right is Taos. Yeah, it's good news. So we found our first major visual. I had mostly just flown heading towards these points, and from here on out we've got more and more visuals to try and keep us on track. So the town of Teos is right there, and on our left is the airport. Still second guessing everything I see here, so I'm just trying to look at the shapes of some of the roads on the map and the airport itself so that I can match it up with what I see. All it takes is sort of picking up one really definitive feature in the town or the airport, and you're like, oh yeah, for sure, that's it. So it's pretty easy to just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to pass an airport on my left wing, be blown off course, and there happens to be another airport 10 miles west of where you think you are, and you quickly look at the airport, look at your map, see an airport, you're like, yeah, we're good, let's keep going. But now you're way off course. And so you want to make sure that you can pick out some visuals that have very definitive features to them, and shapes that you know for sure are what you're looking at on the map. But we are good, I think. It's that river, that gorge there that I've also got on my map. It just shows as a river on my map. I should have a relief map. That would help a lot, but I don't. I just have a regular map that shows rivers and lakes and airports and cities and towns and roads. Yeah, that's definitely the airport. I didn't see before that little taxiway or small runway. No, it looks like a taxiway coming off of it from back there. But so that's the shape. That's definitely the shape of the airport, is like an L or a T. So we're good. And the major highway. Alright, that gorge just west of that airport that we just went between the airport and the town, that gorge runs straight up. I should be able to follow that all the way to the next town if I stay a similar distance from it. It runs about the same heading that I am, so there should be another town called Cuesta on my left coming up, and that's a good waypoint. I wasn't expecting so much sun to be hitting this side. I didn't really account for that. This side of the cockpit, and it's difficult to see. So if we follow this, I'm wondering if that's the town there. But if we can try to maintain this heading, whatever this heading is, pure north pretty much. So if we can maintain a heading here of 360-ish, maybe a little less, that should bring us to the next town, which is Cuesta. And I need to pass Cuesta about the same distance off my left as we pass that airport, so similar anyway. So far so good. It seems like we are on course. A little trouble maintaining 15,000 feet. I know the max altitude of this is 15,000 feet, so it doesn't have near as much lift up there as I'd like. It likes to drop down to about 14.5 pretty quickly. I have to almost constantly maintain a little bit of back pressure on the stick. Funny enough, if I trim it up one more notch, it wants to climb. Let's see if we can just get a little bit of altitude here without dropping below 120 knots. There should be a pretty major river system off to my right, but I'm unsure if I can see it because of the terrain. It might be right in there. I think that might be it. Running 45 degrees from me here up, sort of northeasterly direction, and then a little bit more east down there. I think that is the Red River system. So we're good. That should be on my right. And Cuesta should be right across from it when we get to the part that runs easterly. Is that a town down there? It looks like a road. Cuesta's not a very big town on the map, so I guess the prior town we passed there was big enough to visualize pretty easily, but I think that might be it. Maybe. Or maybe that's... Oh, maybe it's right below. Maybe it's right here. Yep. Yeah, I guess that's it right there. Alright, so still on course. We've gained a little bit of altitude. That's good. My charts tell me that for this section, the safe altitude is 16,400 feet, I think, on the chart. But that gives you a 2,000 foot clearance, so we're at 15,000, which should give us a 600 foot clearance, which you wouldn't want to do this without good visibility. In a mountainous region, 500 foot clearance is not considered safe, but that's also the tallest peak in the area, and we're not planning to fly right over them, so I think, yeah, that's got to be the Red River right off to my east, and then we're probably just, I guess that's, oh, there, yeah, you can see it a little bit better now. That's definitely the town. All right. Okay, so good job so far. Now we should be traveling just from our depart. We should always be traveling just a touch, sort of like 3 or 4 degrees. Not quite north. So I'll keep adjusting that slightly. I don't think I'm too far off course if I am. So this might be harder to spot, and it's also a small town on the map. San Luis, I guess. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. We should be traveling directly over San Luis on our path north here. But there should be quite a large lake right before San Luis. So I'm kind of looking for spotting some blue up ahead on my right. It should be far enough off my wing for me to see it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it right here. And directly across, west from that lake, there's another tiny lake, but I don't know if that's going to be easy to spot. It might be quite... Oh, you know what? It might be right there. Alright, so far so good. Biggest concern is running out of fuel, of course, because, alright, so we still got plenty in the main tank. But this is right on the edge of the... Technically, it's a little bit further than the range of this aircraft with a full tank. So I am fully expecting to arrive at our destination and do a dead stick landing if need be. That's why I chose Denver, because there's plenty of large runways. The other thing, I'm unsure about how I'm going to proceed, because I probably should have done a test flight in this first, but I said, screw it, I'll jump right in and let's get to it, is at some point I'm going to have to switch over the auxiliary tanks. Now, I've flown things like the Mustang and the Spitfires in DCS quite a bit, and you can basically fly them till they're fumes and they start sputtering and spitting, and that's kind of your indication, flip your tank quick, but you still have 10 or maybe 10 seconds to get down there and flip the switch. I don't know how Microsoft Flight Simulator handles that. Are we going to get into a situation where we run out of fuel and instantly the thing dies, and now I got to figure out, for the first time by the way, which I also probably should have just done a cold start of this to figure it out, but I'm going to have to figure out how to start this thing. We got our master switch on, so we got our starters there. Well, we'll find out the hard way. That's what makes it fun. Yeah, that's definitely the lake. You can see it there. Beautiful. That is nice and big. It's big on the map, but you never know how easy it's going to be to spot when you get in the air. And I don't even really need to look for the lake that's running west of that, because we are passing this off our right wing, and that should be fine. We should be passing over, well, we won't be passing over San Luis for a bit because it's past the lake, so I'm going to pass the lake first, but we're still on course. And I think this makes us just a little more than 1/3 of the way there. I don't want to get that. I think that lake's a little too far off my right wing. So let's run. Let's run a little bit toward the lake, as if we are intercepting a nav point or GPS point here, and then turn back a little. because I think that was supposed to be pretty close. Oh, there's the lake actually. Yeah, I'm guessing that's the other lake, because on the map there are no other lakes in this area. So there we go. Passing between the two, but we should be passing much closer to this lake here. Where'd it go? There we are. We're definitely not over the lake, but I can't see it anymore, so turn back a little bit here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I think I need to Alright, there we go. Traveling maybe 4 or 5 degrees here. Probably a little bit more actually. Good. Got the lake just off of the right of our fuselage here, so we're good. And 15,000 feet, we are. So far, so good. Now, just after this lake, I'm going to be passing over a town, but I don't think I'm going to be able to spot this town unless I see it down here. But right after that town is Fort Garland, and there should be some train tracks running west of our plane pretty straight, and they should twist and go a little bit more north right where we need to cross. So they're completely straight, and then they start to twist where we need to cross, so that's a good indication. And there's I'm guessing a big town below us. So that's really the next point we're going to have to look out for. There's the lake. Now we're looking out for Fort Garland and whatever town that's in, and train tracks. But they should be a ways up. We haven't even hit San Luis yet. We're still trying to get past that lake, I think. Yeah. guess, oh, there we go. That's St. Louis, probably right there. And that's the road, that main road there. Heads straight into Fort Garland. So we are no HSI in this, or the horizontal situation indicator. So you find yourself sometimes, especially when you're looking down here at your instruments, it would be nice to have an HSI so that I could see when I'm, but of course we don't, so that's fine. Just have to make sure we look up every once in a while and make sure we're not rolling over. Oh yeah, there we go. We should have been passing straight over that, but that's fine. So we are just a touch east of our appropriate course. Keep track of that road. It's pretty easy to be looking at other things and then come to look back down and not be able to find your point of reference, especially in an unfamiliar area. Also is a large lake. Oh, that's it right there. Oh, wait a second. There's a few lakes. Oh no, so these aren't lakes. These are those circular watering systems for the farmer fields, but that's the lake we're looking for. So that's our large reference, and there should be a smaller lake just east of this lake somewhere that is... No, that's not a lake. So it could be more directly in front of us. We could be closer to passing over it, but it's right on the edge of Fort Garland. So I don't know if we're going to see it or not. But we are. That might be. So here's the road we followed. And it runs up into here. This is probably Fort Garland in around here. Find out when we get closer. Oh, there it is. I can just barely see it right here. So perfect. We're flying almost over top of this. So that's right on the edge of town. So this is the town right here. And Fort Garland is sort of on this side or the edge of the town. And that's probably the train tracks right there, running straight into here, and then they kind of twist off. But that means we are on course. And then there should be some civilization that we got to keep off of our right wing. I don't know if it's a town or just sort of some buildup of something, but there's quite a few streets on the map off our right wing. Those need to stay off our right wing. Passing past that lake, so I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to my heading now, make sure I maintain a decent heading. Constantly trimming this aircraft out. Basically flying it the whole way. Yeah, I'm guessing maybe this here is the train track, because it kind of gets squirrely. I'm guessing that's the train tracks. I might be wrong. I let the wing dip there for too long. Let's turn back. So I think this is the train track coming in to Fort Garland. Yep. So this is the train tracks we were looking for, and then they squirrel off. Let's see here. Yeah, they squirrel off and go up here. So we're so far so good. All right. And this puts us almost at the halfway point. Just a little bit more north of Fort Garland, a few minutes, and we should be halfway. And we are getting into a more mountainous region. Let's check our low on route maps here. Yeah, we're coming up to the highest region of our flight. So the area we're just about to fly into for the low route. Hold on a second, I'm trying to read the map here. So 16,500 feet is the safe altitude with, that should give us a 2,000 foot clearance. So, sorry, 16,400 feet. So we're at 15,000, so we're within the 2,000 foot clearance level. But again, you know, you really should be above that. I'm guessing that large mountain range right here is what that clearance is there for. Okay. I need to go back a bit here. What am I pointing at? I gotta turn so I can see. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna have to come back. Yeah, so there is the peak. So this is, I think, the hardest part of the trip. There isn't many reference points. There are two small lakes quite a ways away. I'm not going to be able to visualize them for a bit, but they're north and south of each other, in line with each other. So if I can spot those, that would be great. Give me an indication that they are off my left wing westerly, which they need to be. This road, so I can see this road on the map, and it should actually be on a 45-degree angle from me. So I think I need to come back more. Yeah, that may be a bit better. I should have been intercepting that at about a 45, and that looks pretty good now. If we put it in the corner of my monitor, it splits the edge of the monitor and my plane. Alright. So, I wonder, there's a tiny little lake on the right, and like I said, 2 on the left. That might be a bigger lake than I thought on the right, or is that grass? Maybe that's just grass. There is a large grass region on the map, but I don't know what that is. It's not labeled. I don't know if it's like a game preserve or something. I don't know. Soon we're going to have to start paying a little bit more attention to how much fuel we have left. Well, maybe that is a lake right there. I don't know. On the map it is long and skinny this way, so that might actually be it. If it is, that's great. That's a visual I wasn't expecting. But if that's the case, then the other 2 lakes should be off to the left somewhere over here, and I expect them to be like one like this and one like that, or something like that. But they are very tiny on the map, so they may be too tiny to visualize. Need to go. Oh, I don't think that's a lake, so I better not take some visual reference off that. I really hope I don't spend the first hour and a half hitting all these points properly and then get lost. That would suck. That is not a lake. So from far away, that green area there did look like a lake. Oh, beautiful. You spend a lot of time just looking around for the next thing, and you constantly second guess yourself, even though you're timing it and your airspeed, and you kind of have an idea where you should be, but then of course you're questioning every decision you make. But the lakes, I just spotted them, there they are. There's 1 and there's 2, just sort of north and south of each other. So they are good. They're well off my left wing like they should be. There should be 1 directly east of that. So those are visually, how far ahead of those are? Oh, they're right there. So there should be, I don't know if that's it. It's kind of long and skinny on the map, but anyways, we found the ones on the left, so we are now passing those. Very good. Now I don't know. So off. Let's see. There's the 2 lakes. So if we follow those straight north and south off wing about 45 degrees, should be a town, but you know what, it's probably on the other side. I believe it's on the, I think the terrain is in the way. So we cannot see it. You know, there's a large lake way over there. I wonder if I can see that on the map. Yeah, I can. Okay, I wasn't expecting to see that far away. So I can see we are pretty much west of that large body of water out here, and I can see that on my maps. So sort of give me a position. At least I know where I am north-south now to Denver, and I'm about halfway now then. Pretty much smack dab halfway. Might be a little bit more than halfway actually. So now our next reference isn't for a while, but there should be a very large lake on our right in Pueblo, and that will be passing on our right about as far as that lake is out there. And then on our left, way out there over this mountain range, should be Cannon City, passing it on our left, and there's quite a few cities there. So Coal Creek, Williamsburg, Florence, Brookside, Rockville, but the big one there looks like Cannon City. And US 50 highway will be crossing. We should be able to see when we go through Pablo I-25, which is a pretty big highway. That is getting more, I don't know. Whoops, shoot. I was turning right there. This is the problem, checking your maps. Part of the problem too, obviously, if you were in a real aircraft, you would feel the plane tilting. So, I mean, it's great. I love simming. It's realistic. But the one thing you're going to lose, obviously, is the sensation of rolling or losing altitude, for instance, or pitching over or pitching up. Without those sensations, you've got to basically have eyes on the whole time. And the second you start looking at a map or looking away, you're in trouble. And did we correct that? I don't know. I need to find my next reference point before I know if that was a good correction or not. But the good thing is at 120 knots, it's not like we're going to be off course by a few miles for just rolling a little bit there. Looking forward to seeing this next body of water that will be passing far on our right, and then this town of Brookside is the biggest town there, with a bunch of little towns closer to me. All right, still got enough fuel here. Don't need to think about going to our ox tanks yet. Just kind of looking around to see if there's anything that pops out in the geography that I could then look for on the map. Well, there's a lake right there. There's a lake right here. And I should be... Yep. Okay, I can see that on the map. It's about halfway between me and a little town called Rye. So... far. Yeah, it definitely should be off my right wing, and it's a little ways away, so I think we're relatively good anyway. It's supposed to be there. was a nice confirmation. Another tiny little lake like that. I didn't think I'd be able to spot these lakes as easily, so that's nice. It's actually, I'm pleasantly surprised about visual flight rules in Microsoft 2020. Seriously, there's nothing, I couldn't do this in any other sim. Like, I love DCS for what it is. I love X-Plane for what it is. But I don't think I could recreate this flight. Definitely not in DCS, but the focus in X-Plane was definitely instrument flight rules, not visual. And even with all the sort of little quirks that may exist, specifically with taxiing, I seem to and charts, you know, the charts aren't always matching the SID stars. But even with all those quirks, I've got to say, so you work around them, so you don't pick that approach or you don't pick that arrival. If you're dead set on using the charts as they are, then yeah, I definitely run into some complications when trying to set up the exact flight plan I want, but then I change it so that it works within Microsoft and fly it, and you know what? It doesn't take away from the experience, so I have a different... In fact, you could argue, there's definitely an argument there, that if you file a certain flight plan, that doesn't mean you're going to get that flight plan. You're going to have to get what you're given. If they decide that, you know, especially if it's a busy airport, that you're going to be departing on this departure instead, they'll change it on you last minute. They'll tell you take off this runway instead. That's just how it works. So now clearly that's not why that's happening. I understand there's some issues with them, but just saying, fly by the seat of your pants a little bit and get what you're given. But at the end of the day, the immersion factor that is offered me in this simulator is far superior to anything else. Now, I know this is never going to happen, but man, would it ever be a cool dream for DCS to recognize that as a platform, this gets the terrain and the charting and everything right, and to build their you know, weapons systems and study level aircraft on top of this. You know, sort of all their mission editors and everything, sort of build it on top as an add-on. I think that'd be incredible. And then they could spend less time on the actual world and more time just on the aircraft and the weapon systems and the missions and things like that. It would sure allow them to focus their efforts, because let's be real, DCS is never going to look like this, not anytime soon. Now, that being said, I'm not knocking DCS. DCS looks great. I enjoy DCS thoroughly, and it's a completely different offering. So just trees below me. Those little body of waters are catching those little bodies of water are so important. There should be a large one off my left wing, but I think it's far enough away that I'm not going to be able to visualize it, unless that's it right there. That might be it, because it is long and skinny, and there's a town of Silver Cliff just, and I bet you that's the town, yeah, because the town of Silver Cliff is just south of the lake, so that's good. That's not a visual reference that's going to tell me I'm right on my path, but it definitely tells me I didn't go way off course. It should be my off my left quite a ways, and it is, so that gives me a north-south reference again. So I've still got a ways to Brookside, it looks like. So that all that really tells me is that I'm not way off course, and as far as north-south goes, I'm not to the Cannon City is the big city up ahead, but I'm not there yet, so I don't need to be panicking saying, where is it? Is it below me? we've still got some time left on our timer here anyway, so. I did not spot that little lake. We may have flown right over it. That's the other thing, is that if I'm off course a little to the east, which it's quite possible I am, then that means we flew right over it. Okay. So this here sort of gorge, that's the major river system. The major highway is just north of it. Maybe that's it there. But anyways, this is quite a... Yeah, there's the large lake. Yeah, so there's the river system that runs right through Cannon City and all the other little towns. So if we can catch it on this side, is that the river? It's a little harder to see on this side because it's all washed out because of the sun. But maybe that? I don't know. And then there should be... all the major towns should be out on my left. And then we start getting into Colorado Springs, which will be out on my right wing. And we aren't passing over Colorado Springs too closely, but it should be large enough to visualize from here. So I don't really have a reference off to the east other than that lake and crossing north over that river. It is to the west that there should be that town of Cannon City. So this must be the river here. So it doesn't really look like a city though, but I guess it does. So this must be Cannon City here, and it seems to be pretty good position. Let's check our fuel. All right, so far so good, and we've climbed a little 200 feet here, so that's okay. A little extra altitude. Guessing it's that peak right there that gives you the 16,400 feet clearance, so I'm guessing that peak is 14,600 feet high. Yeah, so this little lake with the road running over it, or it looks like train tracks running over it, but anyways, yeah, we're good. There's our north-south position. Oh yeah, there's all the little towns. Yep. They're much easier to spot when you're right over them, that's for sure. There's the river. Let's check our roll here. Yes, there's the river going right through Cannon City. Oh, we're rolling. Shit. So I lost it. It's just under my wing, I guess. Oh yeah, that's definitely Cannon City out there. I keep wanting to roll left here. Nice. Yes, okay, I see exactly where we are now. Perfect. That was a perfect little reference. I know exactly where I am on the map now. I'm actually just a little east of my course. So if I can pick a visual reference, two of them ideally, to turn to and then turn back to. Now let's just... fly this course for 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to do 20 seconds. Maybe 5 more seconds here. I don't really have a great reference, but if I can fly just a little bit this way and come back. Settle in. Alright, so that's probably brought us a little, you know, it may. So that highway is visible on the map. That goes right into Cheyenne Mountain Skate Park. Sorry, Cheyenne Mountain State Park. It's tiny on the map, but well, it's tiny and I'm older. Combination of the two, anyway. So I believe we're probably at least closer to our course. Of course, may still be off to our west a bit, but definitely better than we were. I can see that lake body on the map. So it is, this is our heading, yep, our heading's north. So it is, we're just a little bit north of that lake. So let's see. So coming up is Colorado Springs on our right and US 24 highway, Cripple Creek City on the left, but I think it'll be too small to spot. So we're really looking for Colorado Springs, which, if I'm going to take a guess right now, is this. And Colorado Springs should be there-ish. So I think we're making, because essentially next is Castle Rock, and after Castle Rock is Denver, and we should, at this point, we shouldn't be lost. We should be able to spot Denver Airport, and we haven't even switched to our reserve tanks yet. So it says 300 nautical mile range. And if I wasn't mistaken, the main tanks had 25 gallons and our reserves 20 gallons maybe, and our reserves 15. They weren't too far off. Even if it was 25 gallons, we're 3/4 of the way there and haven't switched the tanks yet. So I thought I was going to be landing this with a dead stick, but I don't think I need to. So I may have plenty of fuel, which means I can go and fly over Denver Airport and fly back a little bit just to make sure that I've flown the full 300 nautical miles before I land. So that tailwind that I put in made a huge difference. If I remember correctly, I put in a 12-knot tailwind. So I was hoping that would give me the advantage, but I'm also not completely familiar with the weather layer system. So I don't know if that's, it didn't feel like it was affecting me, so I'm not, but then again, I'm not going to feel a tailwind like I am a crosswind or a headwind, so. Plane is bouncing around, so maybe that is the, we need to say that that is Colorado Springs. I need a reference here. Getting some altitude. So there should be a lake off my left and right wing. Okay, there, that lake there. That's not the ones I was talking about. So I think this is the lake I was looking at on the map. So this lake here, though, I should actually be pretty close to that. So I may have been, and I think I'm supposed to be closer to the peak there. So I think I did get off course somewhere. I think I traveled quite a bit more west than I thought. But I'm still recognizing things, so we're not I'm not as lost as I was. Okay, so I should be equidistant between this lake here and this lake here, so I am off course. Great reference though, and I wouldn't be so aggressive if I didn't realize now that I've got lots more fuel. So we're gonna fly. Now where's that lake? Under my wing? Where'd that go? See, that's another reason not to fly aggressive, because now I lost my reference points. Shit, now there's all these other, are those the same lakes? Okay, so now I'm getting more confused. I knew exactly what was happening until, okay, that was that lake. That lake, there we go. So that's where it was. It was under my wing. So this lake, what head am I flying? Okay. And then we're gonna fly towards the peak, just right of it actually, but get a northerly heading. I don't know if that, okay, so this lake, is it that lake? No, it should be off my left wing. Okay, so that little lake there. Okay, so now I'm probably, I don't know. I guess that's close enough. I definitely was east of my course. So I'm less east of my course. Whether I'm too west now, I don't know, but this lake system is pretty visible and it is off my left wing, so I'm still good. Or is it that lake? No. There should be another small lake in front of this lake. Yeah, okay, so these, okay, there should be, oh yeah, maybe that's it there, but these two, yeah, they're definitely separated on the map, and I should be almost, I guess I'm a little bit west here. I should be a little bit more west than I am, but I don't think I'm far enough course to miss Denver. And Colorado Springs should be maybe at a 45 to me here, so 90. So this should be Colorado Springs. I think it's close to me. Yeah, we have this fuel is, now that being said, I've been flying a lot slower than it says cruise. So yeah, the other thing too is Microsoft Flight Sim says cruise speed on their planes here, but I think what they mean is max speed. There's no way this thing cruises at 150 knots, clearly. I'm guessing that 150 knots is its maximum speed, but I'm more concerned with the fuel flow here. I was trying to keep it just around 10. You know, you pin it and you maybe gain 5 to 10 knots, but then you're almost 40% higher fuel consumption. So I figured I'd rather fly it slower and kind of conserve my fuel. Whoops, bumped the stick there. And conserve fuel. And it seemed between that and the tailwind, I seem plenty good. So is that Colorado Springs? So is that highway down there is US 24, and we should be crossing US 24. So I think we're closer to 90 degrees. I think we need to turn left here. We should have been crossing it at more of a 45. It should have been pointing northwesterly in reference to our plane. So we are a bit off course here. Looking around too much. Okay, so yes, Woodland Park is also, that's that highway at a 45 up that way. So I think that is good. And there should be quite a large lake. Oh, right there. Okay. Yep. So we passed that on, we should be passing that to the right of that lake. It should be on our left wing. So we are good. What are those two smaller lakes? Yep, I see all those on the map. They're 3. So yeah, yep, 1, 2, 3. Yep. So that gives us our north-south position when we get 90 degrees. When those are 90 degrees off our wing, we know where we are north-south. And we are coming up to this lake, which our mapped course intercepts, or it doesn't intercept the lake, but it runs off to the right of it, which we are. So any other flight sim, when you're trying to do a VFR, it's one of two things. It's either impossible because the scenery for the area doesn't exist, but the other problem sometimes when the scenery doesn't exist for an area and you want to do VFR is it's too easy, because all you see are terrain and basically these lakes, you can spot them from a mile away because there's really nothing other than lakes and some roads based on map data. So I find this pretty neat. So Colorado Springs should be far behind us now. I never really for sure spotted, I'm guessing that's it on the other side of that mountain that I expected it on the map. It looked pretty big. I expected it to sort of look more built up, but I'm not familiar with it, so I don't know how much of a city or town it is or anything else. So that we're gaining a little too much altitude here. I don't think we need the altitude for the rest of the flight, but I was just wanting to maintain it after that mountain range in case I was on a dead stick. And yeah, so that little lake there, 45, well, not a little bit less than that. This lake right here, I need to pass on my right. I'm passing pretty close to it on the map, so maybe I'm heading north. And this highway system is I-25 that runs up here, and yeah, it snakes, and I cross it actually, and it should end up on my left, somewhere up here. I can't really see it from here, but that's where we're good. I am, yep, looks like I'm going to cross that at the proper point. I may be pretty close to my original route. And then just on the outskirts of Denver Centennial is a giant lake that I'm passing on my left, followed by a giant lake. They should be equidistant off my wings, even though north-south they're different. And those two lakes should guide me in, oh shit, to Denver. Assuming I don't miss them completely now. I turned right probably just as long as I was talking. Go back north. Where's that highway? Can we see that on the other side now? Monument. Just kind of shaking it left and right because it allows the reflections to not interfere with what I'm trying to look at. I can't really spot the highway on my left like oh, maybe that's it up there, maybe that's why. Yeah, I think it's further up. This must be it here. I was kind of looking here and that's definitely not it, so I think I ended up turning right too much. That's definitely the highway now. And this must be where we fly over it at a point where it actually sort of juts left and then goes north again. But I haven't been able to spot that. It's probably underneath me. So I think what I can do is actually, problem is without a HSI, I don't know, I can't really follow the road in here because I could be flying, I could be flying left or right without even realizing it. But there's the highway. As soon as it juts left, that's where I was supposed to cross it, and I can take I'm pretty sure that's it, but I think what's our fuel at? We're definitely getting pretty low. Yeah, I think it's time to not mess around after this trip. Set auxiliary. We have 1.7, but I can always reserve that in case Denver is still a ways, but it's not. I believe we're coming right up on it. So we should have no fuel issues. That's not the highway. Okay, that's where the highway juts left. Yeah, we should have been crossing our path across this way going north. So the highway's probably under us. Yeah, there it is, and it starts to bend left there. So we're just west of our positions. Again, maybe actually I believe the tailwind that I put in is a bit of a I think it was kind of traveling south to northwest just a bit, so that's possible that also is affecting us and pushing us off course. So let's go back. As if we cross like that, where's north? There we are. The problem with these compasses is when you turn, they don't give you an indication of which way you're going. A little bit more maybe. So you've got to turn back before you know. Alright. We're heading north. Yeah. that highway should be more parallel with our flight plan. So the highway came down and went across this way. That's where we should have crossed. And the highway is, we were kind of flying in this direction a little bit more than we were parallel. We were definitely west of our, so this should bring us pretty darn close to getting visuals on Denver and where we're headed. And I don't think we're going to have a fuel problem whatsoever. It's too bad they didn't outline the state parks in green on the ground like they do on the maps. They'd be really easy to figure out where I am. So there's a town at Castle Rock. Oh, maybe we've passed it. No, we shouldn't have. So yeah, so the town of Castle Rock's right where the highway bends. So that's Castle Rock, and I can see this lake. On the map, the lake looks like it's further away, but so this is the lake that we need to pass on our left, equidistant to another lake that's further north on our right. And those two lakes should guide us to Denver International. I should have picked a small airfield, but I really assumed that I'd be at 15,000 feet and out of fuel and gliding it into an airport. And this isn't exactly the it's a tail dragger, so and there's no flaps, so it's not exactly the easiest plane to land. You got to come in fast, and I do have a bit of experience in tail draggers with Mustangs and Spitfires and things of that nature in DCS. I have no problem landing two wheels fast, but I've also never flown this Pit Special in Microsoft Flight Sim either, so I decided to just jump in and figure it out as I went. Not like there's much to it, but my biggest concern was finding the fuel selector. So thank goodness it's quite obvious. Alright, so just hold this course for a while. Alright, so that's almost an unfair indication of where we are. I'm guessing we're getting close to Denver because my frame rate is dropping from 50 to 29, 25. So something tells me, now that obviously wouldn't happen in real life, something tells me there's a bunch of scenery getting loaded. I'm guessing that maybe all this patchwork up here and across should continue this way. That's all Denver, so Denver's all over here. There's the one lake on my left, and we'll take a look at the distance we are from that lake, try and maintain the same course, and if the lake on the right looks like it's a similar distance from our right wing, we know we've stayed on course. I don't see the lake on our don't see the lake on our right. I wonder if it's in front of us. I think I might just see it off the nose. Yeah. I'm guessing this is it, and we were kind of heading towards it rather than between it. So maybe something right here. Thing is constantly rolling on me one way or another, and just when you think you've got it steady, all it takes is for it to roll over by 2 degrees, it seems. Anyways, you know, you get it right in the center, it's not so bad, but once you get 2 or 3 degrees over, then it really starts to go. I think it's trimmed out about as good as I can get, and I'm at 15,500 feet. I'm gonna actually just roll the nose over a bit, which will help me look ahead, and we can pick up some speed here. We're gonna have no problem getting to Denver. The only question is, can I land this bird? In fact, I think we will fly past Denver and turn back, just so that I know I've gone the 300 nautical miles. Okay, I just spotted the lake and we're pointed at it again. Oh, never mind. Oh, geez, there it is right there. So we are flying over it, and that is definitely means I'm off course. That looks pretty. We should have been flying from here all the way, so basically this way, more like that. And did I see? Okay, there we go. Those runways right there. I'm guessing that's Denver International. Yeah, terminal, another runway because there's 4 north-south. So I didn't realize we'd spotted this far out. Where did it go? There it is. Yeah, alright, and we've got our whole reserve tanks. We probably could have still been flying on our main tanks right now. And we've got 13 gallons in our auxiliary tank and 1.7 gallons in our main tank. I mean, we're fine. I could fly around Denver for a bit if I wanted to. But I'm going to fly past, and I'm way high. But there's no reason to rush it. I don't need to get down there anytime soon. We'll just mosey on down. Reduce the look at the fuel flow now though. I mean we're at 8 and I've barely throttled back. I think it would be a neat idea for in the challenges to have like a fuel economy challenge. Either put a destination just within reach and you have to sort of manage your fuel to get there. Either VFR or even if it was IFR, you have to manage your fuel. Or you could have a challenge that just gets you to an airport well within your range, but you know, how much fuel you have left is how many points you get, kind of thing. So I'm going to bring up the chart for Denver International so that I can see which runways. I don't know their runways headings. I know they're north-south, but probably not exactly. Airport info. Yeah, so north heading is 340 left and right, and 350 left and right. Those are the 4 runways. And then 160 degrees right and left, and 17. All right. Geez, that's the first time I've looked at. I've never flown into Denver in simming ever, or real life. Never been to Denver. But man, is that, I guess from what I understand, it's the largest airport in North America. Yeah, I can tell. Bloody thing's giant. 12,000 foot runways. I think we should be okay. So I guess with that we made it. I can see it, so there is no need to another airport there. One thing I noticed, I'll have to look for a review online. I'm considering doing some reviews of the add-ons for you guys, but I haven't grabbed, I'm planning to grab them all just to check them out, and I figured if I'm going to grab them, I might as well review them. But one thing I noticed was Denver is a star airport in Microsoft's list. So this is one of the handcrafted airports, yet they offer Denver as an add-on. Can't remember if it was Orbix but one of them offers Denver. So I'm just wondering the fidelity difference. I'd hate to buy an add-on for Denver and find out that the Microsoft one is either just as good or better. I'll have to YouTube it and see if anybody's done a comparison of the two. And if not, maybe it's worth doing. But it seemed kind of strange for an add-on manufacturer to choose Denver. I wonder if Microsoft did not communicate to that community, the third-party developers, when they were making this, that hey, you know, if you're going to build something for launch, these are the airports we're handcrafting, so probably best not to overlap. So one thing I didn't bring into consideration is the frame rate drop in around Denver. So I hope that does not, because it seems no fail that whenever you get close to the runway, and granted I get it, I'm always flying into bigger areas, you seem to get this lag that just spits up as soon as you're about to flare. It's happened to me so many times it drives me nuts. So I'm always anticipating my flare point, and sometimes just going off feel, like I'm not actually getting any visual feedback of the flare, but I know that that's sort of the appropriate pressure to bring to pitch the nose up to flare at that moment, and then it will come out of the lag, and so far so good. But it's not a very nice thing to have to deal with, that stutter right before you flare. But this seems to be kind of stuttery on me right now. 20. Oh, sorry about that. My track IR flipped off my hat there. So this should be dead on 300 nautical miles from departing airport to Denver. But my luck, it will be it would have rounded it up to 300 nautical miles from 299.98 or something, and if I roll straight into Denver, it's not going to catch as the achievement. So this won't actually give me an achievement, but it's a part of the achievement. I got it written down. I can't remember what it's called. Jack of all planes. So that achievement, you need to fly every single plane in the standard release. So there's 20 of them, and you need to fly a 300 nautical mile journey in each of them to get that achievement. So it's kind of a nice way to check out all the planes and their handling characteristics. It's one thing to take one up for a quick flight, but you don't really get a feel for the plane until you've flown it a bit and tried to trim it off at different altitudes and weathers. So this one was going to be the most challenging one because the range in this is 298 nautical miles, not 300. But I wonder now if that was, you know, I'm betting that 298 nautical miles is on the main tank. And with the auxiliary tank, you're going to clearly get way more range than that, probably 450 to 5. So there was really no reason to think that this was going to be the bigger challenge here. It does look nice. It is big. Wow. You got your 4 runways here, 2, 3, and 4, and 2 more here. And another one down here, I think. Let's look at so there's 6 runways total, yeah. So you have the 4 north and south, and then the 1 here and 1 here. And that must be a taxiway. Although in an airport this size, other than the regulations preventing me, I could easily land on the taxiways or the apron. And every runway at this airport is 12,000 feet. That's incredible. I'm guessing there is not a lot of GA aircraft flying, smaller planes flying into this airport. I'm guessing they probably have an airport nearby. Maybe they're older. I know that Denver's pretty new. Maybe they had an older airport that they service all the GA craft out of. I don't know. Because there are no smaller, like a lot of airports. I'm familiar with Pearson, and you know the one runway there, 05 and 23, is it? Service pretty much all the GA craft because they're on that side of the airport. The apron is, anyways. General aviation. But with 6 12,000 foot runways in Denver, it's not that you couldn't fly into it, but I'm guessing that they don't have the services for GA as much as other airports nearby. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't see anything on the chart for general aviation parking, so it seems to all be concourse A, B, and C. So those are the main terminals. And, oh, no, there is a general aviation area off of runways 35 left and 17 right. Okay. And that's the same, and that's a giant runway for general aviation because it actually taxis straight in. But then it says cargo ramp, so I'm guessing that it's probably the same runway used for FedEx and Puro and those guys. Yeah, we got tons of fuel. So I'm just going to kind of make sure I've gone that 300. I definitely should have. It said 300 right to Denver, so. But I don't want to fly it again in the pit special. Although this would be fun to take up in around a city and just kind of buzz everything with. Although not if my frame rate keeps dropping like this when I'm in around cities. Funny enough, it doesn't do this in the TBM. So maybe it's just Denver. And I'm looking forward to the NVIDIA 3000 series. 3080 at least. Hopefully the Titans aren't $3,000. Man, the roll on this is great. Aggressive. Alright, you know what, we do have lots of fuel, so let's see what this thing has when it's pinned. And I don't know, just playing with the mixture here. I think it's a bit too rich. Too aggressively towards Denver. I probably should, at this altitude, check what the stall speed is, so I can figure out a decent approach speed, because I have zero idea in the pits. I mean, a bi-wing, I'm guessing this thing's got tons of lift. But it's always running clean too, there's no flaps. So, lots of lift, but no flaps. How fast do I have to approach in this thing before it stalls? I don't want to find out 100 feet above the runway. Like I said, lots of fuel, so let's play around with it a bit. So there's no vertical speed indicator, so I'm just kind of gonna eyeball the altimeter, try and keep my nose level, throttle back. I don't want to introduce speed from a pitching down. And now I'm getting rid of all my trim settings. Alright, 90 knots. Doesn't look like I'm losing a bit of altitude. So maybe that's what the green area is. Something tells me that that green area is the flight envelope. And so I'll probably stall at just below 60 knots there. So maybe maybe a good approach is 65 knots. We're going to find out. Nose up. We're still losing altitude. A little bit more angle of attack. Here we are losing speed. We're also losing altitude. Okay, it's gonna stall here. I'm gonna, oh, and it froze. Or did it? No. So we're flying at 60. We're losing altitude, aren't we? No, we're pretty steady there. So it should stall out maybe 58. Yeah, it's starting to wing over a bit. So that wing was just beginning to stall, I think. Yeah, because it's getting super sensitive in the roll. And the angle of attack's so high, you can't even see the runway, which is nice that I picked a nice, long, wide runway. Throttle back a bit. Yeah, there we go. So the green line's a pretty good indication. I'm stalling just slowly. We'll just make this more aggressive. Yeah, there we go. I'm full stick back and stalling. So let's just recover. And we got all that trim in the nose up that we got to get rid of. And we should have lots of fuel. Yep. All right, so much trim. Alright, and the GA area is right at the end of the run. We're going to swing back around to the other side of the airport and land on 17 right, which at the end of that runway is the general aviation area. So, fun. We get to taxi a 12,000 foot runway, depending on how much of it we use, and a tail dragger, so you should be zigzagging down the runway so that you can see properly. So we'll see how this handles on the ground. So what it looks like according to the chart is we're going to be landing on this runway here, and down here this is the GA, and I'm guessing this big ramp here is for cargo, and probably in here is the general aviation. So we'll land here and taxi all the way down here, park in here somewhere. Oh yeah, look at that, 150 knots, 155 almost. We're losing altitude, but nice and quick. And tons of power in this thing. The throttle is very sensitive at 50 to 60 knots. So the tiniest little bit of power and you're going to be gaining altitude again if you have a nice glide path here. Nice descent, but yeah, as soon as you're throttle on, you're climbing again. So it's very sensitive. Very laggy though, yeah, under 20 frames there. I saw it dropped to 17, maybe even less when I wasn't looking. And I should have checked the plate for that runway to see what my altitude was for touchdown, but it's nice and clear, and I don't feel like going hands off to find the plate. We'll just eyeball it. So what would I say? 1.7, so we're doing 3.5 degrees. So we should be parallel with the runway. Turn a little right. This compass is driving nuts. No. Close enough. I really hope they implement a replay system so that when you're doing maneuvers or you do a great landing or something like that, you can replay it afterwards and see from an external view, because I cannot fly from an external view at all. But I would like to see some of the landings and things from that view afterwards. It'd be nice to watch that. Like in DCS, well, let's not get started on DCS's replay system, but assuming it works, it has worked for me in the past. It usually works less than it works for me, but that being said, when it does work, it's nice to fly something and then come back to it and take a look at it and play the replay and zoom around outside and sort of create a little bit of a cinematic. So what are we, 1.7? So we should be what, 80 degrees? I believe we're flying a heading of 260 to be 90 degrees now. And we can throttle back. Alright, so this might be tricky. First attempt in the pits. And then we're going to fly a heading of 170 for 170 right landing. A little high. Oh man, is it stuttery. Under 20 frames a second, this should be fun. I'm going to end up being nose up here, and coming in way too fast. It's the fun of flying a tail dragger here, is by the time you get to the runway you can't see it. I'm just trying to keep the end of the runway in sight. And we're coming in low. Just want those lights in sight. I don't know why I aimed for the beginning of the runway here with a 12,000 foot runway, but oh, that was hard. We're down in Denver. Oh man, don't ground loop. Whoa. Alright, that was horrible. Now that's why we picked Denver. Whoa. I guess we should have got clearance. Yeah, I didn't feel like going through any of the radio procedures on this trip. I just wanted to get it up, do a VFR, fly it, get into Denver. But I'm guessing someone's really pissed at me right now. It's okay. It's a long runway. You're coming off. So he just landed, and he's taxiing off. There's plenty of room for both of us. A little. So this is what you do in tail draggers. You should be sort of crossing at a 45 so that you can look out here. And then crossing back so you can look out this side. Otherwise you can't see where you're going. What the hell just happened there? This is a very long runway, so we got a ways to go. Well, here's a taxiway. The problem is if I take this taxiway is going to be much thinner. Oh, and there's a plane on the taxiway, it looks like. It's going to be much thinner than the runway. And I'm not going to have as much room to be doing this. So we're going to exit the runway near the end, even though they're probably screaming at me right now to exit. Oh no, he's pointed the other way. I would have been coming up behind him, but I don't really want to wait for him either. I don't know if I'm guessing in the pits there's a way to lock the tail wheel down to... I wonder if I pull back on the stick, that might lock the tail wheel. I know in some tail draggers, if you pull the stick back all the way to nose up, that locks the tail wheel. I don't know if that's the case in this or not. I spent 0 minutes looking into this plane before attempting this journey. So we're going to map. So that's cross from runway 35, so we won't take that. Another thing on this, it's neat that they have all the taxi signs, but I can't read them, especially in an airport and the frame rate's dropping. They're too small, and they're kind of moving laggy enough. They're laggy enough that you can't really read them. So let's turn this way. I've got the stick pulled back all the way, and I'm trying to determine if it's limiting the tail wheel to 5 degrees or something, or 15 degrees or something like that. I think it might be. Let's crank it now. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it didn't make a difference. So I think we exit here. So on a lot of tail draggers, if you pull the stick back all the way, that puts the plane into a position where the tail wheel isn't locked straight, but it only allows 3 or 5 or something like that degrees of movement, and that's great for takeoffs. So you would go ahead and lock the tail wheel, and you'd be pulling back on the stick for the first, maybe up to 30, 40 knots. You get up to that speed, and your plane will actually, you go from full back to pushing forward just a bit. And when you push forward just a bit, then of course the plane will, in a tail dragger, unlike tri-carriage or something, the plane will lift off the back wheel and level out for you so you can see where you're going. And then you can wait for your V speed to get to rotate, and you can take off nice. It's really hard to see where to go here. We're pretty close to the center line, I think. Oh man, 10 frames a second. Jeez. So I think I will wait for the NVIDIA 3000 series before flying into Denver again. A lot of movement on the ground here. A lot of objects to draw. I guess it's just a neat airport. Airport looks pretty darn good to me. I don't know if I'll have to take a look at that. I think a lot of these bigger airport upgrades are better for people who are, man, that's bumpy. For people that are flying heavies a lot, and I fly heavies never. Oh, looks like some GA stuff over here. So yeah, if you're flying heavies, I'm guessing that you're going to want those international airport upgrades. But I'm more interested in those smaller airports personally, unless Denver's unique because it's a star airport already in the sim, so I don't know if I want to. Yeah, that's fine. I didn't ask for parking anyway, so we'll just stay here and wait for the airport police to arrive and arrest me for landing the wrong way on a runway without clearance in front of a heavy. So anyways, guys, if you stuck with me this long, congratulations. That was my first true VFR flight, and at the same time, hopefully it gave me the 300 nautical mile journey in the pit special. But that was pretty interesting. It was totally doable. I got here. So it will be interesting to map out some other VFR flights in the future across cities and mountainous terrain and things like that, and especially in some bigger planes with some longer, with more fuel. Although this has more than I thought it had, so we're plenty fine. But thanks for sticking with me, and hope to see you soon. Ciao.